Hi, so we have been talking about ethics in general on specific topics all semester, bioethics and AI and just all kinds of things. But this week, we're going to start looking inward a little bit and ask ourselves, so what does ethics have to do with being a technology professional? Most people take this class because it's part of a major that will involve technology at some point. And so we're going to take a look at codes of ethics from different professional organizations. In Moodle this week, under the Learn section, there's a whole section of links to professional organizations and their code of ethics. So that'll give you some ideas of how this plays out in the real world, in real industry. There are also some resources in the Think section that'll answer the question like, why should we even care about this? There'll be a little refresher about what ethics is. And I know we've been talking about this all semester, but every time you look at it from a slightly different angle, it'll make a little more sense. So what I'd like to do is go through the project. It'll be a short project, but I think a meaningful one, because you're going to develop a code of ethics after looking at the professional ethics. But you as a professional need to know what your own benchmarks are. What is important to you about that will guide how you behave and interact in an ethical manner with integrity in the workplace, in the workforce, when you get out there doing real things in the real world. And some of you are already there. Some of you are already in these contexts. And so this will give you an opportunity to look at, so why do I make the choices I make? And why do I interact the way that I interact? What things are important? What things are deal breakers? What things are boundaries that are not okay to cross? And so you'll develop your own code of ethics as we go through the project for this week. And this is the beginning of a 2-week series. It's actually going to lead to a portfolio project that you'll do for the final. And we'll talk about that in Zoom this week. So let me go ahead and screen share, and I'll just do a quick, this isn't a very long set of slides, so I'll just go through them quickly. So we're going to look at doing this as professional ethics, right? And so in this assignment, like I said, you get the opportunity to develop your own set of ethics. But based on, just like everything else we've done all semester, you have to base it on something, right? You can't just make stuff up. And so you'll get a chance to analyze and evaluate different codes of ethics from different professional organizations. You'll get a chance to create your own, and then you'll get a chance to reflect on what all that means and how you'll actually apply it. So I love this quote: ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. That sounds very subtle, and it is, but think about that for a minute. So your first step, there's 4 steps. And so your first step is research. And there's a whole bunch of links. There's some here that, not links, but some suggestions here. You can go find their codes of ethics. Some of these I have linked up to in Moodle. There are 6 different sites that I have individual links to. And then I have a third or a 7th one that says something about, additional ethics resources. And there's, I think, 3 or 4, maybe 5 more that you could look at. You don't have to look at all of them. It might not hurt to glance at all of them just to check, find ones that are in the area that you might be interested in working in someday. And then find at least 3 different professional ones. Now, all 3 don't have to be in the same field, but they all do have to do with technology. If you find some that aren't on the list, let me know. I'll take a look. And if they are in the right category of things, I'll add them to the list. But you have to let me know ahead of time if you're using one that's not already on the list, either this list or from the ones that are already in Moodle. So this was an interesting quote. The real problem is not whether machines think, but whether men do. And of course, he means men and women, right? B.F. Skinner, you've probably heard of him in a psychology class. So the second step is you're going to review. So you've got your 3 sites. You're going to go look through their whole code of ethics. You're going to look for things that are in common. You're going to look for things that are different. You're going to look to see if you can find a core principle that their guiding principle, like maybe a single statement that says, this is what we believe, and then they'll have a list of the things that support that. Are there any values or principles that are unique that you didn't see anywhere else? Are there any that are in common? So analyze your sites, make some notes, because you'll have to share out the responses to these questions. And I want more than one word answers. You can't just say like, yeah, there's some in common, and no, there's not. You have to explain out and help me understand your thinking on all of that. So this was a good quote. One machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men, but no machine can do the work of an extraordinary man. And of course, they mean women. You know, I had a really hard time finding technology quotes attributed to women and quotes about ethics. And I don't think that's not because there aren't any. And I'll be honest, I asked ChatGPT and I asked Bard, and they gave me a bunch of imaginary quotes. They gave me some that sounded really good, but when I went to go find them and connect them to the author, they didn't exist. So be really careful when you're using these AI tools. That might be another thing to throw in your code of ethics. Like, how are you going to interact with AI, and what's the purpose of it for you in your technology work? So this is the big step, right? So you've filled up all your hopper with all this information. You've got these ideas for what you could include. I don't want you to just copy sentences from other codes, okay? I want you to write up your own, but you can use those as inspiration, because this is something for you personally that you'll take forward. And a code of ethics gets fine-tuned over time as you have experiences that you hadn't thought about. And you're thinking like, well, okay, how am I supposed to react to this thing? But in general, you have to start somewhere. And I should put something in here about the word integrity, because ethics and integrity, you've heard those go hand in hand. And integrity just means to be integrated. Something that has integrity is integrated. It's the same way wherever it is. So you don't act one way online on social media, but another way in person in the classroom. You're just an integrated person. You are who you are wherever you are. And so how does that play into your code of ethics? So here you're going to create it, and you're going to do more than just list out 5 things. And I just threw that number out. I didn't give you a number. I'm going to guess you're probably going to have between 3 and 7 items. You don't want 20 because that's too much, but you probably want at least 3 or 4, because that'll give you some parameters to work with. And so for each one, or for this piece of the project, you're going to create a brief introduction that explains the purpose of the code of ethics, of your code of ethics, and why it's important in a technology career. You're going to create a list of core principles or values that are important to you. This is the ethic part, as a technology professional. You know what? And even if you're going into some other career, whether it's nursing or plumbing or horseback riding, whatever it is, you name it, you're going to have to deal with ethical implications of the actions of the people around you and of your own actions. So this can apply across any discipline. We're doing it in the context of a technology professional, but if you're going into some other career, write it up as if whatever that career is. So then give examples of specific behaviors or actions that align with each principle and value. So that's interesting. So for each one of your core principles and values, give an example of how that looks. Maybe do a short scenario, a couple of sentences or a paragraph that illustrate that principle. Okay, so give an example. And then have a conclusion that summarizes the key points of the code of ethics statement that you made and emphasizes the importance of ethical behavior in technology. Like, why do we even care about that? Why do you think we care about that? So that's the core of your project, is this slide, with create, step 3. So we've talked a lot about artificial intelligence, and I found this quote that encapsulates what I've heard from a lot of technology leaders and from discussions I've had with people who are involved in technology, that artificial intelligence is much more than just another promising technology. It really is a game changer. It's along the lines of the Gutenberg press and the internet itself. This is a game changer where AI is going right now. So it makes us think more seriously about being human and ethical. Like, what does it mean to be human in an era where an AI can write your paper, right? We've had those conversations. And so Marcus here is the CEO and founder of an AI company. So you can go look that up. It's got his tag there. What does it mean? So how are you going to submit this? So we're going to follow a similar format that we've done. I'm going to give you the option of how to submit it. I'm going to give you the option to add a video discussion about it. But in general, the hard copy part of it, I'd like it to be a Google Doc or a Google slide. And please don't just write a Google Doc on a Google slide. Like, if you're going to do slides, make them interesting, make them follow best practices. Don't put 15 paragraphs on one slide. I know it's a hyperbole a little bit, but you know what I mean. Make it easy, make it readable, make it nice to look at. If you decide to do a video discussion, which actually makes it easier for me to give you credit, because then you can explain what you were thinking, right? So I'm not going to require it on this particular assignment, but if you want to include it, include a slide with the video embedded, or on your Google Doc, make a link. All right. And so what you're going to do is do the step 3, your personal technology code of ethics, with all the questions that asked. You're going to create an addendum section because it's not really part of your code of ethics, but it's part of your research into the code of ethics, where you respond to steps 1 and 2. So you're going to let me know which sites you looked at and what you pulled out of them, what you thought about them. So slide 2's got some of those questions, or step 2, you can go back to that. Please follow the naming conventions we've used all semester, and please follow the sharing conventions we've used all semester. All right, so you're going to share directly with me to my email address as an editor, and then you're going to share in general access to anyone with a link can view. And same thing with any videos that you may embed, same sharing permissions. All right, so that's the submission. In Moodle itself, I just need you to put the shared link to your document or to your slides, because that will contain all the other links, right? So I don't need everything, as long as it's on your document and your slides. And please put a header or a title slide so I know who it is. How I'm going to assess this: 4 points. Clarity and coherence of writing. Can I tell what you're talking about? Coherence and consistency of principles and values. Does everything line up? Does it make sense? Specificity, that's a great word, and relevance of examples and behaviors. Do the examples you give match the ethical premise that you're talking about? Does it make sense? And then the overall effectiveness and persuasiveness of your code of ethics statement. The statement that says why this is an important thing to you personally, why you chose these items, helps me understand what your code of ethics is all about. So these slides will be available. If you have any questions, we can talk about it in Zoom, or you can send me a question directly on your Discord channel, either one, your Discord notes channel. But I really want you to put a little bit of thought into this. And like I said, this is week 1 of a 2-week continuum. Next week, we're going to start a portfolio project where I'm going to ask you to start gathering all of these resources you've created for these different projects and figure out an interesting way to present them, and give yourself some space to write some reflections, because we're coming up to the end of the semester and this will actually be part of your final project. But I want you to get it started sooner so that it's not a last minute thing, because it'll carry a lot of weight when we're done. So this week is all about ethics, but then again, so is every other week.